Now for the track guide. Guys, before starting, if you want to improve at a quicker pace, check out my website GITGUDRacing.com, where you'll find car-specific courses or an in-depth racing technique course. Now going into this track guide itself, this is a very fun lap but quite technical one. Starting with turn 1, you can take it flat, make sure you're getting quite close to this inside part of the track, and now when you're just arriving to the next portion, like right now, you can see in front of you that the tarmac changes its color. When you see this and you're very close to that change of color, you should be applying the brakes. So it's not at the exact point where the tarmac changes color, it's slightly before it. But when braking into this corner right here and the next one as well, because this and the next one, it's a long trail braking zone basically. You will be keeping the brakes engaged all the way throughout it. So it's super important to brake with a straight steering wheel initially, or as straight as you can, especially when you're downshifting. We're downshifting here to 4th gear, and as you can see, we're in a way counter steering into the braking because the car will rotate a lot under braking right here, and each downshift means you'll get more rotation. So you have to make sure you're not turning a lot while braking. It's the opposite. In a way, you kind of have to counter steer. So notice that we're still on the brakes, still on the brakes, still trailing, still on the brakes, going to the next corner, and now we do the next downshift. We downshift to 3rd gear, still on the brakes, cutting this part of the curb, still braking, taking this curb, still on the brakes, and now we will be applying the brakes a tiny bit more, because you see this drop off in the brakes. That was because we were turning a lot. Now because we can straighten up the wheel a tiny bit, we can bump up the brake pressure again, and our goal at this point in time will be to have the steering wheel almost straight and doing the downshift to 2nd gear. So now doing the downshift to 2nd gear, counter steering into the corner, and this will kick the rear even more. So if you feel like you can't handle this rotation, just delay your downshifts, okay? Just downshift when you have the steering wheel straight and do it a bit later, so that even though you will tiny miss the apex, you will still have a very good run, because this is risky, but this was incredibly quick. In 2nd gear now, counter steering into this corner. Notice that we're steering to the left, even though it's a right-hander, and we're still holding the brakes. Notice that from the moment that we start applying the brakes up until we take this corner, we didn't drop the brakes at all. This is how you get rotation, and the common mistake here will be to brake hard initially, then drop the brakes, then give it a blimp of throttle, then brake again. No, it's one continuous brake motion, and then get back on throttle, use all the track on your way out. You'll bring the car here close to the white line on the right side. Don't go all the way to hit the curb, just bring it to the right. You will turn into this corner in 4th gear flat out. Make sure you're cutting this part of the curb. As close as you get to this dirty part, you will have like 0.030, 0.04 quicker lap time, but if you cut too much, you can get the off ramp, so make sure you're not doing it too much. Now for this corner right here, before the beginning of the curb, like this white part of the curb, you'll be applying the brakes, turning into the corner, turning and braking at the same time, but in lower percentages. This is key. You don't want to brake hard and just overwhelm the front end of the car. Instead, just holding a tiny bit of brake pressure applied just to make the car point. You want to hit this part of the curb right here, and the moment that you get to this point, you should be downshifting to 3rd gear like this, still holding the brakes engaged, up until you feel like the car will turn enough. Then you will smash the throttle 0-100 very confidently, but you can't hold it for too much time, because the moment that you get on this curb, you will be having to brake again for the next left-hander. So this section here is very tricky. First section of the track and this section of the track, probably the trickiest part of all the circuit. So now in 3rd gear, applying the brakes once again, we will go back to 2nd gear when we turn into the corner. So when we get closer and we see the curb, we're gonna downshift to 2nd gear, still maintaining this lower percent braking. Once again, if you brake too hard, the front will go past the limit of grip, or you will overslow the car, and that's not a fast way to do it. Instead, maintaining this lower percent braking is key. you have to mount this curb. You will feel it in your force feedback, and the moment that you feel it, you will smash the throttle like this. Make sure to modulate a tiny bit, because you can't really go 0-100, but you should still go very confidently in the first 20% or so. Now hugging this part of the curb to traveling the shortest distance possible, and now pushing the car to use all the track. Your right tires should be on the white line. You will brake in a straight line on this curb. The braking will feel uncomfortable because this curb is bumpy, but you will find a lot of lap time by opening the next corner, so it's definitely a good way to use it. However, make sure that you're accounting for that, and make sure you're braking a bit earlier. Make sure you're smoother with your turn in as well, because we're turning into the corner right now. In third gear, we will keep it in third, we won't go to second, and the moment that you cut this part of the curb, you will push the throttle like this. Make sure you're using everything here on your way out. This leads to a big straight, so push the throttle early and confidently. And now for this corner, the next right-hander in front of us, the reference for braking will be here, kinda past the beginning of the curb. Like right now we're applying the brakes. You will brake in a straight line, you will downshift to third gear, you will go to second gear when it gets closer. What's important here, because it's a straight line braking, no elevation change, hold constant brake pressure, almost like a rectangle. Look here on the telemetry. You don't want to drop it too soon, instead hold it constant. Get very close to this curb, but don't go completely over it, because there's an anti-curb that will bump the car forward and it will feel awkward. Now push the throttle back out, make sure you're not hitting the green once again. If you hit the green, you won't have enough time to turn for the next corner, so if you're on the green and you're turning, the car will be a bit lazier to turn, because it will go over the bumpiness, and also the next corner is very close, so you will miss it. Instead, don't go on the green, make sure apexing here very close to the grass and the dirt, and that's important because you want on your way out to be aligned with the white line under braking. So if that means you have to drop the throttle a tiny bit at the apex, do it, as you see here. Now beginning of the curb will be beginning of the braking. We can even use this curb to open up the corner. It's a bit riskier. I won't highly encourage you to do it unless you're really comfortable with this track. But if you are, you can gain a couple of 002, 003 by opening it up. In second gear, make sure you're cutting here a lot. You have to cut here a lot more than you think. Then push the throttle back up. You can use a bit this green, but don't use it too much. Don't go all the way to the gravel, because now the braking point is very close, so you won't have enough time to reposition. It will feel like it's rushed, and because of this you will lose in this corner. So don't use everything there, so that you can properly position the car. Beginning of the curb, beginning of the braking. Here the braking is a lot less than you should be expecting, so it's just a tiny dab on the brakes. In third gear, go completely over those yellow anti-curbs, because those have a lower height. And now it's important to not use all the track here. If you will use everything, this curb it's quite different, because you will feel like the car almost slides on it. So don't use everything in the green. Make sure you're putting your right tire when the green starts, but don't go more deeper. Now bring the car all the way to the left. Beginning of the curve here will be beginning of the braking. In third gear, you will downshift to second as the car gets closer to the turning point. You will turn and then go over this curb, push the throttle. Here you can use this green because it's fine, you have enough time to reposition. And now bring the car to the right side, hitting this white line on the right side, turning into this corner, cutting a lot this grass and this dirt. You will have to do a small throttle lift to reposition like this, but then you'll bring in and almost brake diagonally into this corner. It's the fastest way to do it. You see, you're gonna brake diagonally, arrive this part, go in second gear and then turn. Don't use too much the curb, because it will push you forward and you will miss your throttle application, and use all the track on your way out. Definitely this is a hard corner because you're going diagonally, because you have to be precise with your apexing, and also because you have to be confident to push the throttle even though you don't see the corner, because you don't see the exit. So all in all, it's a difficult track, but it's a very good track that will develop yourself as a driver. It will make the other tracks more easier, especially with this car. So I hope you like it, I hope you enjoy it. Once again, if you want to improve at a quicker pace, check out GITGUDRacing.com. and looking forward to see you in the next one. Bye bye!